Good afternoon. Welcome to TNC Radio.live. This is the Truckers Network Radio Show. And now here's your host, Shelley Johnson.
Thank you so much, Tom. This is the Truckers Network Radio Show on TNC Radio.live, where we offer the entertainment, sports, weather, traffic, news, and information that our commercial drivers want to hear. We're here to help drivers and like to feature organizations that also do that. The National Association of Small Trucking Companies represents over 14,000 for-hire carriers in 48 states. David Owen is co-founder and president of the NASTC. He's a graduate of the University of North Carolina and a United States Marine Corps veteran. He's with us today to talk about their upcoming NASTC conference that will feature some great keynote speakers, as well as a Grand Ole Opry style concert that features Wynonna, Billy Dean, Brad Morgan, Lindsay Lawler, John Schneider, Tony Justice, a bunch of great entertainers. Terry Lynn Weaver is the organization's representative, and she's going to be performing the Star-Spangled Banner at the state conference. So it's all going to be very cool. Welcome, David. Semper Fi. I love the fact you're a Marine veteran.
Well, thank you so much, Shelley. It's really one of those accidents that happened back during Vietnam. The Marine Corps only drafted twice in the history of the Corps, and at the time I didn't think I was one of the lucky ones when I got picked, but looking back on it, it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. I tell people it was getting drafted into the Marine Corps and surviving Paris Island, and then getting out of the Marine Corps in one piece and not having to go to Southeast Asia was the second best thing that ever happened to me. So,
absolutely.
I'm proud to be a Marine. I'm proud to be an ex-Marine or a former Marine, however you want to say it.
Well, a lot of our drivers, I think 30% of professional drivers are veterans, so they definitely appreciate that. We like to feature veterans. We are very supportive of veterans here.
We are too, and I can tell you since getting out of the service, the last 50 years, I guess. I'm going to give away my age in a minute, but I've done business with a lot of former Marines, a lot of veterans from all branches of the service. And I can tell you, it is very satisfying to do business with someone who served the country, because I don't know, they just got a better grounded idea of right and wrong, and living up to your commitments and doing the right thing when nobody's looking and that sort of thing. So I have had zero bad experiences dealing with people that serve their country, and I'm with you. I try to recognize them every chance I get. And I did just a small stint, but I'm very happy I got that privilege.
And we want to thank you for that, because if it weren't for our veterans and our active military, we would not have the freedoms we have in the United States. Absolutely.
I was talking with a friend about that the other day, and I pointed out it's a shame that I don't believe we've had anybody in the president's chair in the Oval Office that served our country since Bush 1. Mm-hmm. Although Bush 2 did serve in the I think the National Guard or
Texas
Reserve.
National Guard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But as far as veterans in the White House, we haven't had one, and I think that's not necessarily been a positive in the way things work up there. In my opinion,
I think you could have a point there. I was wondering if you could start maybe telling us a little bit about your organization and what it does for trucking companies and drivers, for those who aren't familiar.
Certainly. I can start off by saying that NASTC is the worst acronym in America. It stands for the National Association of Small Trucking Companies. And if Buster Anderson and I, who helped me get NASTC airborne, my partner, who is still my partner, by the way, we've lasted 33 years. If we'd have known we were going to be successful, we'd have probably named it something else. But our association is a for-profit buying group that was formed in 1989, so we're in our 33rd year of existence. And we started NASTC when the conventional wisdom in the industry was that there would be no small trucking companies in 3 or 4 years because they couldn't compete. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, there seemed to be a lot of truth or potential truth in that statement. But lucky for us, and lucky I think for the country as well, the owner-operator model in the small business, particularly in full truckload, long haul, or irregular route carriers, has not only survived but thrived over the last 33 years, and as such, we have become more and more important to those small carriers in helping them be competitive and put a little dollar here, a dollar there back on their bottom line and compete in the freight lanes. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize it, but in full truckload long haul carriage, it's often batted around that small carriers represent 90% of the companies involved. Well, that's not true. They represent 99.9% of the companies involved. There are only 1,440 some companies that have over 100 power units in the United States, and there are 139,000 that don't have 100 power units. So we represent a very large niche of trucking, but it's not represented by anybody else, and it was kind of it really was kind of a vacuum that we stepped into. Now, we do a lot of different things. Primarily, we're involved in advocacy for this group. We've spent a lot of time, money, and energy in Washington with the FMCSA and the Small Business Administration and with Congress. And over the years, we do that. We have a guy that's our regular. He lives actually up in the side of the Beltway, and he and I have multiple conversations almost daily. I had no idea that nobody else really represented this fragmented group of carriers, other than possibly an overlap with OIDA, which is a very good organization, older than us, and that represents independent contractors and lease-owned independent contractors primarily. We started out not representing that group, but representing small businesses. So there's a difference in our organization. Over the years, we've gotten to where we even help in one guy, one truck business models as well, too, now. Okay. But we're involved we do drug and alcohol testing administration for 5,000 companies. We do safety and compliance work. We have a proprietary software offering called Mystic, MYSTC, software for running 1 to 100 trucks. We have an in-house insurance agency where we help small carriers write insurance and get insurance and fight the battle of really paying for what you use, as that commercial says. And we have a fuel program that has become one of the larger fuel purchasing programs in the country for guys with less than 100 trucks. We do other things. We do about 15 to 20 things that all of them are designed to help a company, we call it help a company become more buttoned up and run safer and attract better people to drive their trucks and attract better paying freight and attract better lower insurance premiums and all the competitive advantages that large carriers enjoy. So I guess that's about as fast as I've ever said it, but that's kind of who we are.
I think you've given a really good picture of what you do. It's very comprehensive, and I imagine it keeps you pretty darn busy. Have things gotten a little more complicated since the late 80s, or is that an understatement?
Oh. Well, I don't know. I don't have a point of reference because that's when really I got into it. I worked for ComData Network for 5 years. 4 years, 4.5 years. That's how I got introduced to the trucking industry. And so I don't really have a point of reference, but I can tell you this. big trucks in the United States, and transportation in general, is one of the most difficult ways to make a living and one of the most exciting things you can possibly do, because you're right, it's never boring. Even from our end, and you know, we pride ourselves in saying that we own no trucks, we broker no freight, we dispatch no drivers. So we're not in the trucking business, but our members are, and they are, pardon the old worn-out expression, but they're busier than a one-armed paper hanger.
Oh, yeah. People don't realize how busy drivers truly, truly are. And, of course, our economy post-World War II would not have grown the way it did without the trucking industry. So it's wonderful that you're there for the small trucking companies, because that really is the foundation of America. We have to go to break here, David. I definitely want to get into more of this. We've got a lot of questions, and I want to talk about your upcoming conference, which is really exciting. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show here on TNCRadio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly, and we're talking with David Owen, the co-founder and president of NASTC. Stay tuned for more right here on TNCRadio.live.
This blog is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. 4 simple ways to improve your physical health as a truck driver. Being a truck driver is a rewarding career. However, it's not very rewarding for your physical health. A truck driver's lifestyle makes it difficult for them to be healthy. Because of their lifestyle, truckers are more likely to develop serious health issues like obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, and more. Although a truck driver's lifestyle doesn't promote healthy living, it doesn't mean that a truck driver cannot be healthy while on the road. There's several ways you can improve your health on the road. Here are 4 things you can start doing today to improve your physical health on the road as a truck driver. Avoid harmful foods. Avoiding unhealthy foods is way harder than it sounds. As a truck driver, your healthy food choices are extremely limited. While it may seem impossible to completely cut out unhealthy foods from your diet, it might be a good idea to cut back. You can start cutting back on unhealthy foods by packing meals in your truck. That way, the next time you get hungry on the road, you can eat a much healthier meal instead of eating greasy, high-calorie fast food. Another way you can start cutting back on unhealthy foods is to make a list of unhealthy items you eat every day and start slowly replacing them with a healthier option. For example, if you drink soda 3 times a day, cut back to 2, then to 1, and then none. Stock up on healthy foods. To live a healthier lifestyle, you have to cut back on heavily processed foods. Unfortunately, a truck driver's diet heavily consists of processed foods. Stocking up on healthy groceries is one of the best ways you can improve your physical health. When grocery shopping before your trip, avoid frozen pre-made meals, sodas, fried foods, chips. Instead, look for whole grain, fruits, veggies, and healthy fats. Start exercising. Exercise is essential to a driver's overall physical and mental health. Truck drivers have to get creative to stay fit while on the road. Finding the time to exercise can be a challenge for truck drivers. Drivers spend up to 11 hours a day on the road. After working all day, exercising may seem like the last thing you want to do, but you'll thank yourself later. Exercising a few times a week will not only improve your physical health, but also mental health. Get a good night's rest. The right amount of sleep is crucial for a truck driver. Lack of sleep can make driving dangerous. A study shows that long-haul truck drivers obtain less sleep than the required amount of alertness on the job. Truckers need a good night's sleep to be fully alert and ready to take on the road the next morning. Truck drivers travel several hundred miles each day. To reach their destination on time, they'll have to prioritize sleep so they can be alert and ready to take on the day. Not only is sleep an important factor for job performance, but it's also important for lowering stress levels and improving your immune system. Now, here are some ways to promote better sleep. Turn off electronics an hour before bed. Invest in a good mattress and pillow. Put up curtains in your truck cab. Avoid caffeine before bed. And exercise. This blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. TNCRadio.live, your commercial driver navigation station.
This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson here with Tom Kelly. We're speaking with David Owen, who's co-founder and president of the National Association of Small Trucking Companies, or NASTC. David, you gave us a really good overview of what your organization does. You do a lot of stuff. What would you say are the biggest challenges that small trucking companies are facing right now?
Well, it's hard to know exactly where to start, number one. The most difficult, I think the most difficult problem is, in a general sense, is growth. Once you start a small company, unless you can make money and do well with one truck and one trailer, you should probably never add a second truck. However, if a really good driver wants to add a second truck and eventually get out of the truck himself, he's generally got to go to 5 or 6 trucks before he starts making any serious, not even serious money, but maybe as much money as he was making as a driver. So there's kind of a pressure in the industry to grow the company once you get the second truck. And so it sounds like a contradiction, but the number one reason for failure in small trucking companies is growth. And the number 2 reason for failure in small trucking companies is lack of growth. So that's kind of a try to get your mind around that. So growing is difficult. It's not only difficult in financially, financing, getting the bank to agree that you need a new truck or another truck, but getting the insurance provider to agree that it's a good idea that you add another truck. And then you've got to get daily paid freight to keep that truck moving and loaded. And above all things else, you should never consider adding a truck until you find a 1 million mile driver to drive it. So, and that's the key to the castle. That's the secret sauce. That's the one thing that we know is an absolute fact, that the trucking industry, a trucking company, regardless of size, is only as good as the drivers who drive the trucks. And it's all about drivers. It's all about finding good people to drive your trucks, giving them the proper leadership, the proper training, treating them like professionals, and having them become professionals rather than just a window fogger or somebody trying to get from point A to point B. So that's the number one problem, I think, and the most dangerous thing about the industry. There are a lot of their daily problems that occur, that we get the small guys get a curveball thrown at them every day, just about. Somebody changes something or something. But just as the other big problems that we face, parking, I think, particularly for owner-operators and small carriers, is in the full truckload long-haul segment of trucking, parking has become like a nightmare, a daily nightmare. And finding a place to safely park your truck, or finding it at the right time when you need to park the truck to get some sleep, then getting sleep, and that's, I would put it as the number problem in the industry, besides finding that good person to drive your truck. Parking would be number 2, and then, unfortunately, I think erroneously, insurance possibly is the next one, and then followed very closely by the overwhelming attempt by the federal government to micromanage trucking companies through very poorly structured regulations, and it's almost comical how that has come down the pike over the last, since FMCSA was instituted. They don't seem to know much about trucking, and they don't seem to really care, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it almost, with some of the regulations that come down, it almost, you wonder, did the people get their degree in underwater basket weaving or what?
Well, unfortunately, the politicization, I don't know, I'm screwing that word up, but making a political appointment, for instance, to the Secretary of Transportation is pretty interesting, to say the least. And making a political appointment to the administrator of FMCSA is pretty interesting, to say the least. And I'm not making a judgment on the quality of those two individuals. I just question their experience. I don't see that they were picked for having any kind of transportation background or experience, other than the Secretary of Transportation was a mayor of a middle-sized town in Indiana. Yep. And he, as far as I know, he built good sidewalks, but I don't know that he knows a doggone thing about long-haul trucking. And the new administrator is a very smart lady and a very, very capable person, I think. But her experience is handling, credentialing taxi drivers in New York City. Now, I may be totally wrong, but that's the best I can figure about their experience. And I just don't think it's appropriate for them to be asked to do the job they're going to have to do. And judging from some of the comments that I've heard the Secretary of Transportation make, I think he's in way over his head.
So that's where your organization comes in. I would imagine you bend some ears quite regularly, which, am I correct? I mean, that's something that the drivers and the small trucking companies need. Well,
we do the best we can, but just so your listeners will know, we're not a 501c. We're not a not-for-profit association. We're a for-profit association. So the money we spend on behalf of small trucking in Washington or anywhere else, and we do spend quite a bit of it, comes right off our bottom line. So, yes, I think we've certainly spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of thought trying to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I think we've done a really good job of that, and we're beginning to get the ear of some of the people that need to hear what we have to say. However, the government is, I mean, there's some crony capitalism that goes on in transportation, and the government gets almost all of their input from that 1/10%, that not the 90.9%, but the 1/10%, which is mega fleets, very large trucking companies who dominate the policy of the American Trucking Association, dominate the appointments made to CVSA and to FMCSA and to the input. So we work hard at what we do, but we don't automatically get a seat at the table, and never have, not for 33 years.
Which is unfortunate, because small business is what built America. And
absolutely.
And it's got to be so frustrating for the small trucking companies. They feel like they're not being heard. It's like, geez, I'm frustrated for them, as you could hear.
Well, I don't think that the non-trucking population understands that a trucking company has to invent and create its revenue stream every week. He starts at zero on Sunday night or Monday morning, and he ends up at the end of the week trying to get some nickels and dimes to stick in as profit at the end of the week. And then he has to do it all over again the next week, and he has to do it all over again the next week. And there's no built up residual renewing revenue stream. He has to create it every day, every week. Yeah. And a small blip, I'll give you an example, and I don't know whether this will take a minute, but there's a crisis going on right now in trucking that was created by the EPA, and it was very short-sighted when they created the catalytic converters that go into trucks. And those catalytic converters are addressing the NOx that comes out of the smokestack. Well, we've already addressed that, and that the NOx that comes out of this nitrous oxide or oxygen that comes out of the smokestack today is cleaner than the air that went into the truck to begin with. And they continue to insist that that's got to be pure and not smoke up the environment. Well, so they created catalytic converters, forced them onto big trucks, and they designed it to where if the sensor on the catalytic converter doesn't read the right NOx coming out of the smokestack, the truck stops. Oh. The truck stops. It can't operate. It can go 5 miles an hour. And so they've created a huge safety problem with that. The downstream manufacturing and parts people with these with the sensors that operate these things haven't done a good job. The trucks have gotten 4, 5, 6 years on them. These sensors are going out, and guess what? We can't get replacement parts, and we can't get the sensors, and it puts a one-truck guy out of business.
And it's just creating more problems with the gridlock they're having right now in the supply chain. And they're like, everybody's screaming. Did they not see this happening? Or no, they don't have foresight. Yeah, very frustrating.
Well, the chatter is already beginning to start that they're going to try, the Department of Transportation is going to try to blame trucking for the stuff that's going on off of the shore at Long Beach with all those freight, those ships out there stuck that can't get unloaded. They're going to blame that on trucking and not on the problems that they created.
Yeah. Pass the buck. Instead of blaming a trucker, they need to thank a trucker, because if it's in your living room or if it's in your office, it came by truck. They need to constantly be reminded of this. Oh, my goodness. Some very great points here, David. I really appreciate it. We have to go to break. We're talking with David Owen. He's the co-founder and president of NASTC. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show here on TNCRadio.live. Stay tuned for more coming up.
This info blog on TNCRadio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Mental health resources for truck drivers. Truck drivers are the backbone of America. They're the unsung heroes. Nearly every good consumed in the United States has been transported in a truck. Because of how challenging truck driving is, truck drivers often portray the image of being tough. Mental health is not a discussion that many truckers will have among each other. The truth is, truck drivers are human. They have their emotional and mental struggles just like every other working American. The only difference is that truck drivers face unique factors that put them more at risk for depression and other serious mental health issues. According to the Transport Workers Union, 1 in 5 truck drivers has experienced mental health issues. Depression and anxiety are the top mental issues that truck drivers face. Mental health resources for truck drivers. With truck drivers spending more time on the road than at home, it can be difficult to get help for their mental health struggles. Now, thanks to modern-day technology, truck drivers can get help right from their smartphones. Esper. Esper is a national behavioral health company with a mission to help people and organizations reach their full potential. Esper offers a continuum of behavioral health care from acute to chronic health conditions to leadership development, including Fit to Pass, a coaching program to assist professional drivers in maintaining good health and pass their DOT recertification physical exams. BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the world's largest e-counseling platform. They have access to licensed, trained, experienced, and accredited psychologists, marriage and family therapists, clinical social workers, and board-licensed professional counselors. To get starters, take a quick questionnaire and BetterHelp will match you with a therapist that's right for you. Mutts for Trucks. Mutts for Trucks is an organization that helps truck drivers find the perfect four-legged friend for the road. Their mission is to bring more good to a community that brings so much good to us. It's been proven that owning a dog can drastically decrease isolation, depression, and cardiovascular disease. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is a national network of local crisis centers that provides free and confidential emotional support to people in suicidal crisis or emotional distress 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Their number is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. If you feel that you need help for your mental health struggles while on the road, we also recommend reaching out to your carrier and seeing what options they may have available for you. For more information on mental health, go to the blog section at The Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Claire Dunn, and you're listening to TNC Radio.live.
Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show here on TNC Radio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. We're talking with David Owen, who's co-founder and president of NASTC. David, you've been making some great points about what's going on in trucking right now. It's been a great discussion. I also wanted to talk about your upcoming conference in Nashville that's going to have some great keynote speakers and entertainers. When is the conference and what's going to be going on for your members?
Well, we are so excited. I mean, things around here we've been 10 feet off the ground for the last couple of months. Last year, we had a great show lined up, and we had great speakers, and then about 3 weeks ahead of the convention, we had to cancel everything. We had to call in the troops, and we sent everybody home, and we worked virtually. All three of our companies that are under our supervision of NASTC worked from home for about 85 days. We came back, and we had an outbreak of COVID here, and we went back to working from home for another 85 days. And so we decided this year to double up on our conference, and we certainly have. We recognize the conference is built around our Driver of the Year awards, and we recognize usually 15 to 20 multi-million-mile drivers, and we really put on a show for them, or try to. And this year we've outdone ourselves. We're recognizing not only our 20 nominees this year, but 16 that were nominated last year or won our Driver of the Year awards. So we've got a double crew of drivers. We got 36 drivers, all of them multi-million-mile safe drivers, all of them wonderful Americans and wonderful representatives of the industry. And so that's what it's about. But we go for 3 days. It's November the 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's in downtown Nashville. We'll be at the Omni Hotel, which is twice the size of our former location, and we've got twice the number of people coming. We're broken all of our records. We're going to have a full house, a full hotel, and our keynote speaker on Thursday night is Governor Mike Huckabee, who most people know of as former governor of Arkansas and also a presidential candidate, and a wonderful person and a very bright mind. That's Thursday night, and then we'll also give some awards, internal awards for our Broker of the Year and our Transportation Person of the Year, and we'll recognize some people from NASTC. But then on Friday, we'll have about a dozen breakout sessions. Our other radio show, the one that's on Sirius XM, the Dave Nemo Show, will be airing live from our show from 6 in the morning till 10, 4 hours. And they'll be interviewing all of our other speakers. But on Friday, beyond the breakout sessions and the Driver of the Year luncheon and pictures and all the stuff that we're going to be doing, that night we're having a concert. And the previous 3 annual conferences, we did what we call the Grand Ole Trucking Show, which was some Nashville songwriters entertaining us with original songs that they had written about trucking. It was great, really great. This year, we're putting on a full-blown concert, and we've rented the Country Music Hall of Fame, the CMA Theater.
Very
and
cool.
A beautiful, beautiful venue, and it's right across the street from the Omni. And it'll seat about 750 people. And we've got Tony Justice, Lindsay Lawler, Brad Morgan. Who am I missing?
Billy Dean.
Dean.
Yeah, and Wynonna. Very cool.
And John Schneider.
Oh, John Schneider too.
And Wynonna, yeah, and Wynonna Judd. So we're going to blow it out Friday night. I mean, I can't believe what that's going to be like. I'm just really anticipating a wonderful 3 or 4 hours there, right in downtown Nashville, in the home of country music, and in the Country Music Hall of Fame building, for crying out loud. And then on Saturday, we've got a fellow you may or may not know of is Donald Broughton, who is our economist. He's been a big part of our show. He's a regular on a Talking Head. He's an economist, but he's one of the few economists that I can understand what he said after he said it. And then following him on Saturday, right before lunch, we're going to have Dr. Ben Carson, who is also a presidential candidate and was the Secretary of Health of HUD, Housing and Urban Development under Trump. Right. And was also the doctor that most people have heard about that successfully operated on the conjoined twins that were joined together, Siamese twins that were joined at the head. He's written several books, one of which is called The Gifted Hands, and he's one of the most amazing men I've ever met, and one of the most amazing speakers I've ever heard. So, and then we're going to give out our Driver of the Year awards and give out our jackets and have a little fun and call it a day about 2:30 on Saturday. So,
well, I would say it's jam-packed with a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, we've already got more people registered than we've ever had before. So we're making up for last year when we had a very disappointing. We thought we could get through the second wave of COVID, and it turned out that it was a lot worse than we anticipated, and it just wasn't safe for us to try to get people from all over the country to come here and do what we do.
Sure.
We're very confident that it's going to be safe and successful this year.
Wonderful. And it's really something that everyone needs. I think last year really did a number on everyone, and really that concert is marvelous that you got all these wonderful entertainers together.
Yeah, it's a absolute cinch. Downtown Nashville is possibly in the top 2 or 3 destination places in the whole world right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you're right. Well, not only in trucking, but in every walk of life are just absolutely starving for a road trip. I mean, it reminds you of college.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go to Daytona Beach. Get out of here.
Yes. Well, and the entertainers you have are all very supportive of the trucking industry, which is wonderful. And, of course, Tony Justice is a driver himself, too, so that's great.
Absolutely, and a great human being and a wonderful entertainer. Yeah, it's Lindsay Lawler's been supporting trucking forever, has written a lot of wonderful songs about trucking, and I didn't know it about why until we got to know her a little bit. But when she was running around the country when she was like 18, 19, 20 years old, she had a handle, and she was CB Mama this and CB Mama that, and she loves trucking, and she loves truck drivers, and she loves truck stops. You know, she's excited about doing this. She's not backing into this performance. She's excited about doing it, which was really, really exciting for me.
And I like to see entertainers that really appreciate the drivers and understand how important the trucking community is to this nation, because we've gotten away from that. You know, in the late 70s, it was really kind of cool, and then it just kind of migrated into a different direction. And to change public perception is super important, too, because without truckers and trucking companies, we don't function.
No, it should have come home to everybody, including our Congress, our administration, and our regulatory agencies. Should have come home in a much clearer way during COVID, because that wasn't. They didn't give the truck drivers a choice about whether to deliver food and drugs and fuel and make sure that weren't crippling shortages throughout the country. They just did it. It's their job. They went out and did it. They risked their health. They risked their family's health, and they took care of business. And just as soon as we got a little, all we get from the people in Washington, there have been very few political entities or people that have ever gone to thank the truckers. And I will say this, and I don't care who has an opinion about it one way or the other. President Trump was the first president I can ever remember saying anything nice about truckers, truck drivers, or trucking companies, or the industry in general.
Wow. And we need to change that attitude, because truckers need, the trucking community needs to be appreciated. They're frontline workers, they're our heroes, and absolutely, without professional drivers, we don't move, period. So we have to go to break here, David. I definitely want to talk more about your conference and get some more of your perspectives. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show here on TNCRadio.live. Stay tuned for more coming up. Mental health is a topic that isn't addressed enough in the trucking industry. There are many articles, websites, and businesses that can help truck drivers live a healthy lifestyle. But what about mental health? Mental health issues are not uncommon in truck drivers. In fact, trucking poses several risk factors when it comes to mental health issues. Lack of sleep, loneliness, stressful work environment, lack of physical activity. Truck driving can be rewarding, but health issues such as sleep apnea, obesity, diabetes, and depression can result from the strains of the job. So how do drivers prevent these health issues? Stress is an unavoidable part of trucking. Trucking allows you to see beautiful parts of the country, but it also puts you in many stressful situations. Driving in traffic in unfamiliar cities creates stress on a driver. There's stress when you're not sure if you're going to be able to deliver your load on time. You also can become stressed when you're away from home for so long. As you can tell, there are plenty of stress triggers when you drive professionally for a living. One of the best ways to reduce stress is by learning how to handle it. I realize it's easier said than done. It takes time and self-discipline. Here are some examples of ways you can reduce stress as a truck driver. Listen to music or a podcast. Start eating healthy. Exercise or stretch. Talk with family and friends. Get good sleep. Plan your trip out. In addition to managing stress, there are other ways you can keep good mental health while on the road. Drivers often portray the image of being tough. Mental health is not a discussion that many truckers are going to have. Communicating your mental health struggles with friends and family, therapists, or other drivers is a good way to work through your mental health struggles. Here's some more ways you can stay mentally healthy when you're on the road. Stay in touch with loved ones. Establish a morning and night routine. Bring a pet on the road. Travel with your spouse. Consider team driving. Bring things on the road to keep you entertained, like a laptop, video games, or TV. Occasionally book a hotel room. It's nice to get out of your truck every once in a while. Mental health is just as important as physical health. Drivers need to prioritize their mental health and take the necessary steps needed to be mentally healthy. It all starts with communicating with someone you trust, managing stress, and taking time out of the day to do something nice for yourself. For more information on mental health in truck drivers, check out Common Mental Health Issues Truck Drivers Face on the truckersnetwork.net. Thanks for listening.
TNCRadio.live, your commercial driver navigation station.
This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson here with Tom Kelly, and we're speaking with David Owen, co-founder and president of NASTC. David, you've made some really good points. While we were off air, you were talking a little bit about tort reform. Did you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I'm a little remiss in not including that in that question you asked me earlier about trucking's most important issues. And I think tort reform, not in and of itself, but where it leads to, is extremely important, and it begs for attention. And unfortunately, as you well know, in every community now, on every radio or TV show, there's I call them billboard ambulance chasers that get on the air and say, if you've seen a big truck while you were having an accident, call me and I'll get you your money, that kind of thing. And that's proliferated into the industry, and it's making it very difficult for good people to even think about getting into the trucking industry or exposing themselves to that kind of abuse, because there's no basis for it to speak of. I don't know whether you're aware of what they call swerve and squat. You ever heard of that?
If you want to maybe elaborate for our listeners in case they aren't familiar. That would
Sure.
be good.
Swerve and squat started about 35, 40 years ago in the state of California. And you would basically hire a group of individuals and load them up in a van, and they would speed up and run around the truck and then slam on brakes, let the truck hit them in the rear, and then take them to court and sue them. And it got to be... it's not funny, but it was almost a game. They finally caught up with a group of them down in Louisiana and have prosecuted them. But the ring of people that were doing it in Louisiana did it to the tune of several $100 million in claims and judgments against trucking companies, and included 60 or 70 individuals, including lawyers, insurance people, and indigents or criminals. So,
wow,
that's the kind of thing that happens in our industry, and it seems that it just feeds on. I don't want to paint all lawyers as bad, but there are a bunch of lawyers who are predatory, and they when a truck accident happens, they don't care about the details of the accident. They want to talk about a driver's neck size, or whether he's got apnea or not, or what. You'll even hear some of them say, you've been driving for 20 years and you have 14 moving violations, when that's 14 log violations. And which is, if I could find a driver that's been driving for 20 years and had that few log violations, I'd want to hire him and everybody in his family.
There you go.
So it's just it's really, really sad what they've done, and I hate to say it, but the insurance community is sticks their head in the sand and doesn't try to solve that problem by fighting cases that just aren't supportable, and they settle out of court to save money and go on to the next disaster. But the trucking company pays for it, and we're really paying for it down here in the trenches with the insurance rates that small guys with under 10 trucks, non-fleet companies or owner-operators are paying 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much as they should be on insurance because of the, I don't know, I don't want to say that anybody's doing anything illegal, but it's certainly disingenuous the way small carriers are treated by the insurance company. And it comes from our lawyer friends who
are predatory. Some of them. Yep.
Are predatory. Exactly.
Yep. And then you have the ostrich and kick the can down the road approach from other organizations, and it doesn't solve the problem.
Exactly.
It just creates more of a problem. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And, I interview trucking companies all the time, and I'll ask a guy, okay, well, what are you paying for insurance? And he'll tell me, and I say, how do you compete paying that much? And he said, well, it is what it is. I can't find anybody that'll write it for less. I said, well, what about your loss runs? Have you had a lot of loss runs? And David, I've been doing this 12 years. I've never had an accident. I've been doing this 10 years. I've never filed a claim. I mean, over and over and over again. And it's no rhyme nor reason to why a big corporate, self-insured mega fleet pays almost nothing for insurance, and the insurance premiums will put a small carrier owner operator completely out of business.
Yeah, very, very, very wrong. I would almost say discriminatory in many ways, because it's unrestricted trade. And of course, Shelley goes on her soapbox here, but yeah.
Well, it's certainly it's certainly disingenuous,
Yes.
And we're trying to do something about that. I mean, and we have some successes. We have an internal insurance agency, and we help small carriers with these kinds of problems. But sometimes you feel like you're Don Quixote chasing windmills too. I mean, it's
oh my goodness, you've got a huge challenge. We have about 2 minutes left. Oh, it's more than frustrating. Oh my goodness. But thank goodness you're out there helping the small carriers. It's just so important. Could you give everybody information on how they can reach your organization and maybe even sign up for this conference in Nashville?
Yes, we're very easy to reach. Our website is NASTC.com, NASTC.com, and my web address is david.owen@nastic.com. Our 800 number is 1-800-264-8580. We have a very simple phone policy here. You'll always get a human being, and
awesome.
I have a very simple phone policy here. Nobody screens my calls. So if you call and ask for me, you're going to get me if I'm here, and if I'm not here, you'll leave a message or callback number with a real person, and I'll call you back. So that's basically how we do it here. We've been doing it here for 32 years. We get 1,200, 1,300 inbound calls a day now, Monday through Friday, and we answer every one of them.
That's awesome. That's refreshing. You actually talk to a human being. It's done the old-fashioned way. I love it.
No machine. If you ever call here and get a machine, it's during business hours, you'll know that I died.
Well, and we don't want that to happen, so not at all. Absolutely. Well, I definitely want some people to sign up for your conference.
It's going to happen. I just hope it doesn't happen for a long, long time.
Yeah, at least 100 years. There you go.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
anyhow, we're almost sold out on the conference as far as rooms is concerned.
Okay.
But we'd love to have anybody call and get acquainted with what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how they can become a part of what we're doing, which is we're still, it's funny, when we started, we didn't have a product. I actually sold NASTC out of an empty briefcase, and all we had was an idea.
I really appreciate you being on the show. We've been talking with David Owen, co-founder and president of NASTC. They're the voice for small trucking companies. Check them out on the web at NASTC.com. Thank you for listening to another great interview on TNCRadio.live and the Truckers Network Radio Show. All of the material you hear on TNCRadio.live, on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of TNCRadio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live. Radio.live. 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 Radio.live.